Well, in some ways, people are the biggest risk, but they're the risk because the software itself is insecure. So the biggest problem would be to try and fix the insecure software that's out there, and then perhaps it'd be a lot easier for people to keep their systems secure. Well, actually, it can be very difficult to know, because when someone's trying to use your computer for nefarious means, they don't want you to know that. And so, but in the past, it might have been your computer would have gone slowly, or something strange would have happened, and it's still worth looking for that. But often systems now are trying to avoid you realising that it's happened. So it may be too late. Once you realise it may be too late. The important thing to do is to try and get in a position that it's not going to happen. Obviously, it depends what particular threat, what particular things happen to you. It may be that a password's been stolen, in which case you might obviously think about changing passwords. It may be that you may have used a credit card on a site that you didn't want to use, shouldn't have used a credit card on. You may need to contact a credit card company. It may be you need to change lots of your passwords. It may be you need to find a particular a cure for the virus that you've had. You have to search around for that, because they don't. Particular cures come for particular problems. So it will depend exactly what's happened. But yeah, by a bit of browsing and a bit of common sense, you can find the right way to solve your problem. Well, to make sure you have antivirus software and it's updated regularly, and to keep your software updated, to use something like Windows Update to ensure that Windows and Microsoft software is kept up to date, so that any vulnerabilities are patched and changed. And thirdly, to choose good passwords and keep them secure. I think there's various ways of tackling it. You can try and remember different passwords, perhaps through mnemonics, perhaps. It's even possible to write it down if you store it very securely. Even banks can sometimes say you can write pins down as long as you store them securely and not near your bank cards. Similarly, you're going to write down passwords. Don't keep them near your computer. Don't leave them around where anyone else can find them. Perhaps split your password into pieces, parts that you remember and parts that you write down. Have different combinations of different components of pieces of your password for different sites or different activities, and think about the risk. If you're using an important site, which is like a bank or perhaps your email, use a more complicated password. For other sites where perhaps you have no data there, no financial risk, you can use a simpler password and have less to remember. Well, I think you're thinking about the risks they might bring to the companies they work for if they're working from home, and that's getting a bigger and bigger problem as more and more companies let their workers actually use their own computers and bring their own devices, bring their own PCs into work, and that obviously opens up risks to the company. But people also need to think about making sure they're keeping things secure, because if they're not, they must, for example, read any policies that their company has given them, because if they're not keeping their system secure and are bringing risks to their company, they could be worst case, sacked or disciplined for not looking after company data. So when home PC work and office work start to mix, people have to be even more careful, because they're bringing risks not just to themselves now, but to the business. Well, it's a very contentious issue of whether Macs are more secure than PCs, but I think the important thing to know is there are many security issues which are. It doesn't matter what computer you're using, what browser you're using. If you're accessing a fake site, for example, or if you've had an email which is trying to get you to a fake site, it doesn't matter what browser, what email software, whether it's Mac or PC. So I think it'd be wrong to be lulled into a false sense of security whether you're using a Mac or a PC. There's still lots of other things you need to think about very carefully. If you're getting with an old computer or phone, the risk in doing that is that the data is still on it, and it's very difficult. Data is very difficult to kill. Unfortunately, it still survives on PCs, on phones. Even when you delete it, the data can still be there. So, first thing to do is perhaps don't just pass it on to an unknown person or sell it on eBay or something like that, unless you are confident that you've managed to get rid of the data, and that isn't a simple thing to do. So, look into carefully using the right tools to thoroughly and completely delete data. In terms of buying new PCs, the good thing is a lot of PCs come with a 1 year or longer antivirus subscription included, and I'd certainly look for something like that. And if it doesn't have that, then as soon as you get it home, get that sort of thing installed and running. And then don't think that just because you've got a new PC, you can then, and you've got security set up, you can forget about it from then on. It's an ongoing process. You need to keep revisiting it and making sure that you're doing the right things. I mean, to think of smartphones as a computer these days, and certainly to make sure you have a PIN set up to dissuade the casual person who's trying to get inside it, but that won't dissuade a real professional. So the important thing is to try to avoid having too much data on it, not using passwords on it. If it is stolen or lost, then perhaps the first thing to change is the password to your email, because if someone can get at your email through your smartphone, then they can use that to perhaps get to other passwords for other sites, which will send password reminders to your email. So first thing, change your email address, as well as obviously reporting the theft or loss of your phone. There are software products out there if you want to look for commercial products to add security to smartphones, but obviously they cost money and are only available on certain phones, because phones are more, there are various types of phones obviously, whereas in the PC world it's PC or Mac and perhaps Linux, but that covers 99% of all PCs, so it's easy to find software. But if you're on something like an Android or an iPhone, there are software applications out there to help security. It's worth browsing and having to think what might help you specifically.